Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. But before I do that, here's a quote I picked just for this episode. I'm just saying that if you understand how the economic machine works, it just works like a machine. There are cause-effect relationships. Ray Dalio. My dear friend, our guest today, Maria Quattrone, is back from episode 36, season 3. If you listen to the Culture Matters podcast, we're on season who knows what by now. Maria has been helping people with their real estate sales, acquisitions, investment, achieving the American dream, helping realtors that are smart enough to listen in the greater Philadelphia area achieve their dream of helping others for the last, well, we're going to get clear on that. I think it's about 2 decades, if I'm correct. But even before that, in advertising, sales, and door knocking on neighbors' houses, selling things as a young girl, Maria's been doing sales and being a leader. So thanks for coming back on the show. We're going to talk about the current state of things and how, because I know you're making things happen. So thanks for coming back. Let's unpack it.
Yeah, Jay, thank you so much for the opportunity today. I'm super excited to chat with you and unpack it. Let's do it.
I'm curious about the cause and effect, right? Piece, because I thought that quote was interesting. I'll just say it again. I want to ask a real estate question. It was that I'm just saying, if you understand how the economic machine works, it just works like a machine. There are cause and effect relationships. So in the capacity of like our current state of Philadelphia housing, what's a realistic way of looking at things if we're interested in investing in the market, interested in helping buyers and sellers in the market? What's a realistic way to look at it, but also succeed and thrive?
Well, cause and effect. So cause could be like potentially, well, not potentially, is crime. Cause, effect. People want to be away from crime, right? That could be a cause and effect.
Mm.
Cause and effect. So you say, oh, well, I don't know about investing in Philly. It's this and that. And here's the reality, if the numbers work and if you believe in something, it will work. And in investing in real estate, we'll just talk about that for a moment. You always make your money on the buy. Always make your money on the buy. So if you buy right, you do well. If you miss the mark, well, you missed the mark. And there's repercussions of that. You don't always make money in real estate. People think that you do. From an investment standpoint, mistakes are made, deals go sideways, construction crews don't show up, they walk away, you lose all that money. I mean, so it's a serious game, and you have to know what your risk tolerance is. And so, depending on that, will be dependent upon which avenue you take to build wealth
Mm.
through real estate.
Mm. What are some of the traits of the most successful that approach right now? They're approaching a market that may be more difficult or perceived as more difficult.
I think that there's an amazing opportunity in today's market because if you are, whether you're investing, you're a buyer, or you're a seller, you want to work with the most experienced real estate agent and broker in the marketplace, somebody who knows how to navigate and through all of these different nuances, whether that be low inventory, high interest rates, properties that need uh, that are not turnkey, right? So how do you get through that if you're a seller? What kinds of things do you need to do, or does that broker need to do to make it happen? If you're a first time buyer, what programs are available to you, like Philly First Grant, like Pathway to Prosperity, which is not just for first time buyers, that's for any buyer in the marketplace. Very cool program.
Mm.
Whereas if the property is in a minority majority area, then that property, the buyer of that property will receive a $10,000 towards closing costs, which could be either transfer tax, title insurance, buying down the rate. All right. So, and then if the homeowner owns that particular property, and let's just say that homeowner is moving to Doylestown or Miami or Charleston, wherever, as long as that house qualifies, the next purchase from the seller that owned that home gets also $10,000 towards closing costs, and it doesn't have to be in a minority majority census tract.
Really?
So very interesting program. In addition to that, let's say, Jay, you're a buyer of one of these homes in a minority majority census tract, and there's no price point to it. So I just put one under contract a few days ago for $625, and that borrower is able to get the $10,000 credit. Seller is able to get the $10,000 credit, and the borrower, when they in 12 months they can refi and get another 10 grand and another 10,000, and in another 24 months another 10,000, and another 36 months another 10,000. So the program is earmarked as $18 million and over a 3-year period. So 3 to 5, but they're thinking it's about 3 years.
How important is it to be aware of all of these incentive structures?
It's critical to the growth of a real estate agent's business. I mean, I meet with sellers all the time, and they don't know about many things, about virtual staging, about having home warranties, about doing pre-inspections, about this grant program, about the CRA grant program. There are so many things about, why detailed SEO written listing description is critical for online views of your property, right? To get so that Google is organically through SEO bringing that property to top of the list. So there are so many details that need to be, like you have to think of it as you're baking a cake, and if you miss one ingredient, you got a flopped cake. If you miss one ingredient in listing a property, it's not going to sell today. Or it could sell, but maybe you didn't get a high enough price that you could have because you didn't have a strategic plan in place. And days on market is critical. There are so many. Everything takes longer in regards to prepping. There's more involved. And you really, really need to know, you really would need to work with somebody who 150% knows this stuff inside out and backwards, and who has ideas and that is creative. There's so many just cookie cutter, listings. They all sound the same. They all look the same. But you have to remember, when people are moving, they may not necessarily know anything about Philadelphia. So you have to write a description as if the person didn't even live here, right? These are all things that any real estate agent or broker can do. That people choose not to. It's a choice.
What are sellers' big concerns now?
It depends on where the property is located, the condition of the property, their scenario. Every single client, it's a personalized experience for them. So I had recently a client who already moved out of her home, an older woman who was moving down south to be closer to 2 of her daughters. So she moved out. So my clients wanted a quick sale, but they didn't want to just sell it for less. So we devised a plan with a pre-inspection so that anybody who came through, when we did the first showings were at open house. We did the open house for 2 days. We had the inspection report. So now we eliminated the inspection contingency. We knew we were going to get a lot of offers because the property was in an area where there are not a lot of homes on the market. So now what happens is we get to choose the best offer. So most of the offers, there was 10. So 7 of them came in and asked. 3 of them came in and over asked. And 2 of them, we went back and countered. 1 cash and 1 with mortgage. So we wanted to see how far the cash would come up versus how far the mortgage would come up. And most people say, well, I'll take a cash deal. But we ended up going with the mortgage deal because it came up 35,000 more than the cash deal. And so
Wow.
that seller was willing to roll the dice. But the mortgage deal, that mortgage deal also, they're putting down 50%. So there was and we did a home warranty as well, virtual staging. There's a process for every single listing, and it's different based on the strategy that I devise based on the seller and what they're looking to do and what's most important to them. And so each individual marketing and sales consult is personally devised by me with a strategy that may take us a little bit more time to, well, we're fast, but it may take a couple more days to work my strategy because we do a coming soon first, the whole process. And it requires a lot of detail and a lot of hands on deck. But we have full service field support in our office, as well as marketing and listing coordination, contract management, operations. So we have, the staff to be able to pull that off.
Why go through so much work, effort?
Standards and principles and character.
Can you elaborate?
So when you have standards and principles, it's not the effort, it's what the requirement is. I have fiduciary responsibility to these clients. And my job is to get them the most money and best terms possible by utilizing all the things that I know about to list and sell homes. And I know about them because I keep myself educated about what's happening in the market, where things are going, how things, just the best ideas and opportunities. And you learn that I'm always learning. I never have all the answers, but I get as many answers as I can, and I keep improving on it. I keep adding to our resources. And we don't know which of the things that we do makes that listing sell. So we have to do as many of them as we can for that particular property. So residential resale is treated differently than a multifamily tenant occupied property versus a commercial property versus a development deal. Very tough these days. So everything is it's a different process and procedure and system. And then each client, the process and the strategy is individualized.
I just want to make sure I'm following you because I've been watching Millionaire Real Estate Agent and I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought you get a listing and then it sells. You just this sounds like a lot of intention.
I love to hate that show. And we don't all walk around in Christian Louboutin and drinking champagne all day. I can't tell you the last time I had a glass of champagne midday. So that is not real life. It is TV. It's pretend. Maybe that happens somewhere, and maybe it's in New York and in LA, and maybe it's like once in a blue moon. But generally speaking, that's not how it works.
What's the current state of excitement in the real estate market? And what would you say and then what's your culture's take on it?
I don't think there's much excitement in the real estate market. I think there's a lot of people who are struggling. There's a lot of people don't know what it's like not to be, and I hate this term, but for lack of better words, an order taker. And I don't mean that with any disrespect, but that's what the business has been over the last 7 years. So unless you have to turn it into a different cadence, and having a different cadence takes time to execute, especially if you're just used to people calling you. Now you have to make a lot of calls. You might have to talk to 3 times as many people. We know that the average contact attempts per getting an opportunity to either work with a buyer or seller is 26.9 contact attempts, and that's through text, email, and phone calling. It doesn't count any kind of drip marketing or anything like that. So I think it's going to be a rough time. It is a rough time for a lot of people. We know that consumers, 83.7% of homeowners have rates under 5%, and 25% have rates over 3%. So you have to figure out how to talk to them about how to get them off the fence from their first home to their second home to what the equity gain is that they got. Now there are programs and adjustable rates to get them in. Maybe it's not at 5, maybe it's at 6, and maybe because the prices based on inventory are going to continue to rise for residential real estate.
In the Philadelphia
In
market.
the Philadelphia metro market, yes. They're projected to rise 24% over the next 5 years.
Really?
Correct.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, well, it's about 5% or so per year, 4 to 5% per year. But it's based on sheer inventory numbers, supply and demand. So if you don't have the supply, you have the demand, and the demand is of millennials. The millennials buying their first home. They're the largest segment of home purchasers. And then it's just like when I guess it was in the 80s, early 80s, when the baby boomers were buying and there was a lot of sales still, even though rates were higher. It's because of that population buying homes. Same thing today. So there's not enough homes for the new household formations that are coming to be homeowners. So a new household formation is anybody that doesn't currently own a home. So they could be renting, living with family. We know based on inventory and historical data and forecasting that there's not enough inventory over the next 5 years.
But could that be, I'm just thinking off the cuff, could that lead to maybe a higher average commission, but a less amount of deals, which is okay for those that really carve a niche? I'm thinking if housing is a little bit more expensive. Yeah, I'm just curious. Maybe I got this twisted.
No, I mean, sure, it can be, but I doubt that's going to be, because there is still downward pressure on commissions.
What do you mean?
Sellers only want to pay X and really can't have the whole commission conversation, but they're always negotiable, of course. But there has been a continual downward pressure on them, even though our cost to run a transaction hasn't decreased, it's increased.
Wow.
So, I had met with somebody last night and they said, this person's offering this and that. And I said, well, we're not going to create it equal. And I mean that by our knowledge and our skill, right? So you have a heart surgeon. Are you going to go to the one that performed 10 or the one that performed 1,000?
If I have to take that risk, it better be next to free. No, yeah, like I'd rather go to the one with
the most experience.
Yeah, or else I could die.
Or else you could die. The most experience.
If I go to the inexperienced one, I'm gonna what's that Chinese proverb? Good things are seldom cheap and cheap things seldom good.
Something like that.
Something like that. Go ahead. What's your point? I don't want to hijack it. That was hilarious.
The point is that you get what you pay for.
What are some of the ways that justify the investment when someone's working with what you would consider an advisor in real estate?
So, okay, here's something. It took me a week of preparation to sell your property and a week of marketing to sell your property, but you're paying for my 20 years of experience that I could get it done that quickly. Because I know exactly what to do. And the quicker it sells, the more money a seller puts in their pocket, because days on market is not a seller's friend.
Why?
The further days on market that you are from 0, from 1 and up, the less money a buyer's likely to pay for the home.
Really?
Yes.
And is part of, I'm thinking.
So,
the
so let's put it this way, Jay,
Yeah.
you have a house, right?
Okay.
We put it on the market. You have a house and it's 500,000 and we put it on the market and we get an offer and it's on the market 2 days. We get a offer for 450. What are you going to say?
I think I would want to keep it because I want to get my 500. I mean, it depends how badly I need the money, right?
Well, so yes, of course. But if somebody offers 450 in 2 days, you're gonna be like, no, I'm waiting for a 500. Well, Jay,
Yeah.
what if it's 2 months?
2 months, you might be more likely to take less because you're worried, maybe some kind of stress. It depends. You may be more likely because I'm guessing there's no interest before that.
So yeah, we've had 20 showings in 2 months. We've had no offers. What do you think that means?
I think part of it might be the distinction between what I want for it versus what it's actually worth is going to be revealed in what people would be willing to pay. The feedback loops, right? Like
The
there's a
feedback loop,
subjective
yes.
value to business.
So 20 people came through, nobody put an offer in. Jay, what's the likelihood that if it was priced right, that somebody would offer 5% less?
Lower, right? If it was priced right, they would offer.
It's priced at 500. If somebody thought that if they liked it, don't you think somebody would have offered at least 5% at 475?
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
Nobody did. So now you have an offer at 450. So we expect this many showings, this many offers to come in. If we don't, we know we're 5%. If we don't, any of that, we know we're 10%. So we're likely, Jay, we're likely 10% over where we need to be. And the market has shown us over the last 60 days that the market is only going to bear 450 for this property. So do you want to do the right thing and take this offer today, or you can make less later?
I think depending on someone's situation, they'd likely listen to the counsel.
On the other side, Jay, it's been on the market for, you're the buyer.
Okay.
And I'm your buyer's agent. Jay, you just sold the house. It's 500,000. It's only been on the market 1 day. You love the house?
Uh-huh.
Great. So we're gonna put the offer in.
Okay.
Okay. Jay, we have to offer asking price.
Oh, I don't know. Let's lowball them.
Do you want to lowball them? What do you want to offer?
450.
So Jay, it's only on the market 1 day. What do you think the seller is going to say to 450?
Screw off.
Right.
This is fun, by the way. We didn't rehearse this at all. We could do this all day. Oh, what a joy. So there's so much psychology going on. Emotions.
People buy an emotion justified with logic.
And everyone has a different lived experience they're bringing into it, trying to guess this and guess that. And your job is to make sure ultimately they get what they really want and help them figure out what they really want.
Ultimately, that is the job. Wow. And you learn and you figure that out by asking a lot of questions, important questions, trying to understand the psyche and why this is important to them now. And what will happen if it doesn't sell? Like, what's the plan for that? A lot of times nobody asks that question.
Why not?
There's a lot of questions that people don't ask.
What's the value in that question? What can that help the professional?
Because you need to understand what the motivation is. You need to understand. So why are they selling now? Okay, now you want to get to Florida to be with your grandkids. They moved there. They moved to Boca, and you have another house in Boca. But you're stuck with this house, and you're not leaving this house until it sells. You don't want to leave it. You don't want it to be. You're afraid of people breaking it. So what happens if this house doesn't sell at the price that you want right now? Are you gonna like just say, oh, I'm not gonna go see my grandkids in Boca? What's more important? So when it doesn't sell and we gotta go back and talk about why it's not selling,
Mm,
back to what happens if it doesn't sell. Some people will just tell me they'll keep it. Nobody wants to keep the house unless they're crazy,
mm,
meaning that they sought after a listing broker for a reason, not because they have nothing else to do.
mm.
So it's our job to understand, ask the right questions, making sure that everything is covered, you know, and that they understand what the process is and the guidelines. And I asked you how involved you want to be in the process, or do you want to just want to let me let you know when I have an offer?
What are some of the elements that get a seller top dollar?
So in today's environment, I would say, first of all, having a good, clean product, right? Free of clutter. If it's vacant, staged versus virtually staged, home warranties. I would say having an inviting curb appeal, adding plants and welcome mat and a wreath to the door does wonders, right? Having staged open houses, meaning that you're not just standing there. It's purposely done in a way that's warm and inviting. And then there's a whole series of things that are done at the open house to be prepared for that. In the marketing, the proper description,
Mm.
the access to the property, having access to it, not having very stringent hours that it can be viewed, coming up, having everything pre-prepared before you hit the market. So when you come out of the gate, you make a great first impression. You know, what do we have? Like a minute, not even small amount of time, make great first impression. The same thing with getting a property ready. I'd rather take an extra day and make sure everything's perfect than just throwing it up on the market. I mean, you can just go on to any of these online
Ah,
portals today, Jay, and you can look at all these stupid listing descriptions and how terrible they are. I have to just be transparent, okay? They are horrible. Listings are expiring left and right. Because and
ouch.
I just looked at one. No listen, it's not even expired. It's on the market right now. No listing description whatsoever.
Really?
None.
And that's not some reverse psychology thing?
I don't know what it is.
I'm sorry. I'm just it's kind of sad, I guess. But
Well, when that doesn't sell, I'll be
I,
calling them up.
I got a question about access because I'm thinking how quick we move in life today. Being able to make a decision quickly. Can you unpack that a little bit? The access to the property, I'm thinking the buyer today, like I know, just speak for myself. We move quickly with things like, oh, that's not there. Let's look at the next thing. I'm just, is
So
that,
over the
yeah.
many years of being in this industry, I can tell you that if you cannot get access to a property, a buyer's not coming back. They will have bought something that week and something else. I've been on the side of it where I'm a buyer's broker and they would say, oh, I said, the agent's not getting back to me. I can't get an appointment. And we take them to see 5 other houses and they bought one. And it happened time and time and time and time again. So getting access is critical because if you can't get access, the buyer agents aren't bringing buyers back again.
What does staging do to the potential buyer's psychology? What?
It shows them how they can live their life in a property, right? So we're going further than just even virtually staging units, and we're putting in these large pieces of the pictures of the virtual suite inside the property. So when you're there, you can see like in the dining room, here's your dining table sitting there, it's on an easel. Like cool. So going above the next level,
Mm.
right? and it's costs money. All this costs money, but I believe that if my client has the best experience, then I'll get referrals, I'll get a great Google review. I'll have an opportunity maybe to make another friend and have a good relationship and hopefully sell other properties for them or their friends or neighbors or family members.
So you don't want I'm gonna tee you up for this one. You don't want the seller there when they're being shown to, follow the buyer around in the house. I could
No,
just imagine. I don't know if that's maybe I'm is that
no, they're not allowed to be there.
how does it undermine the transaction?
Well, when you as a buyer go to a home, the job of the buyer's agent is to allow the buyer to see the home through the buyer's eyes and ask them leading questions like, will your furniture fit? Can you imagine yourself living here? You know, is there anything this home is missing? As far as I know, based on our buyer consult we had, it checks off all the boxes. And when we discussed this, I said, if a house checks off 8 of 10, we should put an offer. This one happens to check off all of them. So what offer would you like to make today on this house? Assume when you're going to show a house to a buyer, you've already done all the homework. You had your buyer consult, they're pre-approved, their BFIs filled
What's a
out.
buyer consult?
That's when we either meet in person or now on the great Zoom. And we go through about an hour-long questionnaire of all the questions that we ask so we can best assist in that process. And then leading them down the path of what the next future pacing and what the next steps are. So here's the 5 properties that meet your criteria. Can you do me a favor over this weekend? Will you be able to go by each of them and let me know what your top ones are and go ahead and get those scheduled right away? Please get back to me with your top 3 to 5. And I say 3 to 5 because some of them may already be sold. And so if you don't like the block, Jay, are you going to need to see the house?
You just gave me an idea. I need that for Culture Matters. It'll make my life a lot easier. I guess what are some behaviors and or activities that a professional in real estate today, if it's going to undermine their ability to really take advantage of the opportunity that is the current market? What are some ways that's really going to undermine, if we were to.
If you don't have a good daily schedule, if you're not willing to do the work, as we know, work works. Getting better, building skills, taking action. If you're not taking action, you're not going to build skill. If you don't build skill, people, they're going to sound like a robot on the phone. It's like a domino effect, spiraling downward, or it could be a spiraling upward, depending on how you choose to behave. Are you living in the standards and principles that you set for yourself? And are you living in integrity? Because every day that we don't do what we said we're going to do, which is, in my case, call X number of people's, have X appointments, keep going until I reach those, or it could be keep my gluten-free diet, or it could be keep my sugar-free diet. So when you honor your own commitments, you have confidence, and then you want to do more because you're building on confidence. And even if you don't have the success, you could take a borrowed belief from somebody else in the organization that already did what you want to do. Because as I say to everybody who enters this field, everyone started at 0, including myself. So there was a day before February 2004 where I never sold a piece of real estate in my life, except for my own personal property. I never represented anybody. So there was a day when somebody never sold real estate who's now super successful. So what do you have to go through? You have to learn the process, the steps. You have to have the gain the momentum. So the value of the compound effect, understanding that your mindset, having confidence in your ability to succeed, even if you haven't yet succeeded. So a lot of people will say it's kind of BS, but I don't think so. It's acting as if you're already there, not with cockiness or arrogance, just with sheer will and desire that if somebody did it before you, that you can do it as well. And I took that bar of belief from some people 20 years ago that I looked up to. And I said, if he can do it, if she can do it, I can do it. They're no smarter than me. And I started at zero and then went up, went up, went up. Then we had the financial Great Recession. And then that was when, and I didn't know this at the time, but that's when my business really took off.
Really?
Well, I did know it while it was happening, but I didn't know it was going to happen because I didn't realize that I was doing the work all this time. And not only just building relationships, but building my skill set and calling expired listings and force out my owners. So I went back to that. So now I'm calling expired and for sale by owners. I just called an expired yesterday.
How was that?
And well, I call them all the time, but this one I researched there because their number wasn't in my system, my software system. I found it, and then I called them, and then they couldn't talk. And then I called them again, and we had a great conversation for like half an hour. But they have like a big, big portfolio of business.
Wow.
It's very exciting. And they were like, I don't think I'm the only person that called them.
Really?
They didn't act like they had other people calling them. It was very interesting. And so I'm supposed to have a call later today and have a meeting set up for next week. But it's a significant amount of business. Like we talked the other day about getting a $10 million client. It's like getting that.
All because you made the call. And how did you push through? How did you push through? How do we impart some of that inspiration to our listeners who may be apprehensive of making that call to someone they don't know?
That's a long learned journey. When I started calling people 31 years ago, well, one, we don't have as many systems. We didn't have as many systems then as we do today, right? But I won't use that as an excuse. But I was scared, and the only way I got unscared was doing it. And when you do it, and the other thing is, I wanted to succeed, so I was willing to do whatever I needed to do to succeed. Through crying and being unhappy. But I'm not a quitter. So I didn't quit and I kept going. I wanted to. Part of me wanted to, but there was a bigger part of me that refused to because I wanted to prove myself. It goes back to well, we don't want to dig into like that other stuff.
But did you prove it to yourself?
I did, yeah. That's how I learned how to make calls. And I used to door knock people.
What did you learn about yourself and people when you door knocked?
So, well, one thing that I learned is that enthusiasm will take you pretty far. And then you need to back it up with something. Well, one of the things in the conversation I had with this person yesterday was how he was actually, he knows, I don't know him. He doesn't know me, but he knows me, of me, my reputation. And he was pretty excited I called. And I was excited. Wow. And he's like, I appreciate your enthusiasm. Right? So people can feel it through the phone. they can feel whether you're like smiling and excited to talk
Yes.
to them or if you're judging them, right? And then people judge people, like they judge me, they judge you, they judge us all. I don't know why. Like that's just what people do.
Do you think
But
there's a connection? Like if you really want like why you want the business. I'm trying to think, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a different vibe.
so like for me, I have fun with it. So I called this other guy the day before yesterday, 2 days ago. And he said, you own the home at 123 Main Street. And he had a very heavy accent, and I could not really understand what he was saying. So I had to like really listen. And I was talking really loud because I couldn't understand him. And I said, sir, he said, I don't own the property, but with like a very heavy accent. I said, you don't own this property at 123 Brown Street? No. I said, okay, do you own any other any other investment properties? And he said, he hesitated and he said, do you trade properties?
Huh.
So I know what he meant by that.
Okay.
He meant he wants to sell his property and buy another property.
Yeah, like 1031 kind of thing.
No, 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 no. This property, is his home.
Oh, I see.
So I said, what's your property address? So he gave it to me. I said, why do you want to sell? I'm in a 2-story. I want to be on a 1-story because I'm handicapped. So I played this to my group. I said, you take lemons and you make lemonade.
Yeah.
You squeeze the juice. What other question can you ask somebody? Do you own other properties? What harm is that? Or do you know anybody else that is trying to sell that can't get sold or that's looking to buy? On every call, if you do that, imagine how many more opportunities. The guy, I have a call with him today at 4:30 because I have it yesterday. He had to cancel. He had an emergency, and that's to list his property, get him approved with with our in-house lender, and then help him find the 1-story property.
How
All
important?
because I
Oh, go ahead,
asked
sorry.
one more. What?
All because you asked one more question. Sorry.
Yes.
How important is it to just connect with people right now in this time?
It's extremely important that you just call people and ask them how they're doing. That's what we start with, a personal conversation. Now, that's people I know, but I didn't know this person. So it's hard to lead with that, especially you're calling somebody who was on the market and they're mad because the house didn't sell.
That's always a funny one because it's like it's always what you say back to whatever they say to you.
So
How
somebody
you
said
doing? Who the hell are you to ask?
so somebody said today he was all mad on this property in like Pipersville or something. I called him and I said, oh, I said, you're mad today because you're getting all these calls. He's like, yeah. I said, I'll call you back in a few days. Have a good weekend. Hung up the phone. So you want to try to call them on the first day because somebody
Sure.
will want to relist. And then you have to know that everybody else is going to be screaming at you.
Sure.
And you have to be okay with that.
How what about follow-up?
Well, you have to follow up. So that's the thing. In order to convert, you have to have 26.9, contact attempts on average. So how do you get that? You call, you text, you email. So that's three things every single time. Call, text, email. So do the math. How many times you have to do that?
Yeah, it's a whole bunch. I mean, that's
right?
9 times 3 is 27. So that's still
So that's 9
a lot.
times.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. We don't know which way they're going to respond. If they're going to answer the phone, answer a text, or answer an email. And so you may probably, for me, I would answer a text first because I'm usually on the phone or in a meeting. And that would be the fastest thing. I would probably answer the email last.
Mm.
So that's another thing we ask. How do you want to be communicated with, Jay? Would you like us to text you, email, or call you with communication? What's your best way for us to reach you?
Yeah, text.
Right? So everybody's different. Some people want the phone call,
Yeah.
you
Some
know,
people-
it depends on their age. It depends on their preference. It depends if they're retired or if
If
they're
someone's
working.
afraid to talk to people now and they're not able to work through it in action, what's their business going to look like?
I don't think they'll be in business.
Is it really that dire right now? And why, if so?
Why is it? Well, yes, I think there's a lot of difficulties. Um, why are there difficulties or why people won't do it?
Why are there difficulties? What's happening in business right now that's leading to this reaction being a necessity in your view?
So higher interest rates are play a tremendous role. You know, where it's basically double. Now, if you don't own a home, it doesn't really matter. And I don't say that disrespectfully, but you are paying somebody 100% interest right now by renting.
Is that because you're not building equity?
You're
You're
not
not
building
providing
it.
appreciation?
You're not, yeah, you're not building any equity at all.
Less tax advantage?
Less tax advantage, no equity. Um, yeah, and paying probably more in rent than you could if you owned a home. So let's do the math, right? So let's just say you're a first time buyer and you want to buy a house for, I'll use some easy numbers. Let's just say 400,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're getting a Philly first grant of 10. That might be too much at 400, but whatever. It is easy math.
Sure.
So 10, right? 10K. Then you get this other 10K because the house is in this majority minority area, right? And you're getting a conventional loan with 3% down because it qualifies for that program. So you need 12K out of pocket plus closing cost. And that's another, I would say, let's say that is 2%. So that's 8.
Okay.
So now this 20K,
Yeah.
and you got 20K, and let's just say it's a couple more thousand. So let's just say you have to bring only 5K to closing.
Wow.
5K, 5K, right? Now
Wow.
you rent. Your rent is 2,500. You have to pay times 3. First, last, and security. 7,500.
Yeah.
Which is better?
Well, 2,500 times 12 is 30,000 a year.
Right.
I know that much.
You're paying 7,500 for first, last, and security, and we can get you into a home
Well, you're
for
saying because
5,000 out of
getting
pocket.
in. Oh, well, it would. You're spending less money to get into a home. That's what it sounds like, to get into it, to have responsibility over it. 5,000
And
versus 7,500 is what you were saying.
and you have nothing with 7,500.
Yeah, you have this
No
this
equity
new
growth.
cultural thing, the transience, like, right? The idea that you can go anywhere at any time. I don't think that's actually good for, this is just my opinion, but I don't think it's good for culture if we could just move quickly at any time. Because you have to build roots and it's funny, I'm one to talk, but that's why I'm
That's
aware
why
of this.
Florida is so messed up.
Part 2 is going to be a deep dive into this, by the way. Everybody listening to this, we'll talk about the culture. But yes, transient. So to respond to what you asked, you're saying to get in the house, 5,000, and you're saying first month down, last month down, security was 7,500. So it'd be more to rent in that case, upfront, correct?
Upfront, yeah.
And so is part of this that in closing, as we'll have to do a part 2, but is part of the home buying process people coming to the realization that they can be a home owner too? Maybe they thought it was too out of reach for them.
Yep. There are a lot of programs and a lot of opportunity out there right now. You need to be making sure you're working with the right guide. That means real estate agent, realtor, right guide to guide you down the path. And then listen,